Hi, 221 students. Sorry that I had to cancel class today. Here's a quick walkthrough of the material that you hopefully will read, understand, and be able to work with me next week in class. Taking a look at the schedule, you see right here that I'd like you to read the Unit 11 sections that I picked out. For example, 11.4 is beyond the scope of the course. I'll explain next week. So sections 11.1 through 11.3 and 11.5. Do the best you can on SQL worksheet number 1. It's also pronounced SQL, SQL, structured query language, whatever turns you on. And then tinker and experiment with the Unit 11 practice labs that I have inside book. Okay, so I'm going to do a real quick walkthrough of all of the above. Here goes. So in Zybook, when you read section 3 of chapter 11, right here on queries, you'll see that the straightforward vanilla version of SQL is presented by the author and me. And you have these data types, integer, typically spelled in all caps, spelled out. This is not the Java data type int. This is not even a programming language. SQL is more of a markup language. More about that next week in person. So we have data types that more or less correlate with the Java types, but this is a cause of frustration in beginners and students in a course like this, where you're coming from a more pure programming discipline. Okay, as you read this section really closely, you'll see that you're learning your first SQL queries, statements they're called. Notice they don't end with a semicolon in this platform that we're using. You will see in some cases, if you Google this or ChatGPT it, you'll see semicolons sometimes used to delimit the statements. I'll explain that in person next week also. But that should not frustrate you if you use ChatGPT or another AI or just straight up Google, that those semicolons should not get in your way. Okay, back to this section 11.3. As you see, I'm scrolling. This is all within you. You should be able to understand this from this one page of information. You can go to places like w3schools.com. Great place to learn SQL right here. I'll hit the page, the landing page right here. They have a whole section for SQL, interactive tutorials right here. Select all from customers. You have these little active code windows. You can have fun playing with these. Okay, you got to like live with these ads, but oh well, I'm closing the ad. So right here, this should all, oh look, there's one of those semicolons I was talking about. I can also delete that semicolon and watch, it still works without the semicolon. Wow. Markup languages and SQL type languages are really forgiving. Anyway, back to Zybook. So section 11.3, really important because it pretty much lends itself to the worksheet that I'd like you to try. So right here, I have the interactive version of the worksheet and this section right here that I just clicked on. Okay, you guys don't see the instructor section. Just pretend that you don't see that. Okay, I'm clicking run. So when you run this, I'll just call it a SQL script. This is not a computer program, it's a script. It interprets line by line. It does not compile to object code and run, right off the processor of your machine. So what the heck? Where's my output? Well, I'm going to go over to the MySQL workbench and look to see what I've got going on over there. Oh, cool. So we have a whole SQL server behind the scenes running the variation called MySQL, not to be confused with Microsoft MS SQL or IBM's DB2 platform or Oracle, Oracle, the big gorilla in the room when you talk about database and tier applications. So we're using the relatively light open sourcey kind of MySQL, Zybook's favorite here. It still looks good on your resume, and I'll tell you next week how to like list all this kind of stuff in your LinkedIn and your resumes. Anyway, I'm clicking run again because I don't see any output. What's up with that? Okay, I click run again. And it's running, it's running. Oh, because there are no answers here in the stubbed out exercises 1 through 15. So what did happen behind the scenes? Well, let's interpret this. I deleted any tables that might have already existed in this little virtual container. So if there was a table, a database table, called books, it would have been deleted. We call that dropping a table in SQL, management of information sciences. If you were an MIS major, this would be all like basically you would have studied a course like this in high school or a freshman semester. Okay, but you guys are computer engineers or computer science majors, so you're just now taking a course like this. So drop table, real easy stuff. You just do that as a defensive programmer here. Okay, this is creating the table. Notice I have 1, 2, 3, 6 columns, also known as fields. Well, this reminds me of a Java class with instance variables. Well, this one's kind of special, the book ID column, because I made that the primary key. Okay, you just read about that in section 11.3, so I'm not going to elaborate here. Okay, we also have title, author. Oh, look, I have different data types here. A double data type, varchar, which is kind of like text or string, if you will. Oh, I have a double and a decimal. So that's stores 2 digits of precision past the decimal point. That field or column named price, pretty intuitive. So oh, neat. I was about ready to do an exercise, but look what we have right here, packaged up on lines 15 through 20. I've inserted some of the best books of all time, To Kill a Mockingbird, 1984, etc. The Hobbit, one that I read like 5 times back in the 1980s before there was a movie. So we have all these classics right here. And let's list all of them as a customer or a user that's just popping into our online Cyber Monday store. So we would type the SQL command select star, meaning the asterisk star operator, meaning select all, from the name of the table books. So this is what you read about in the example text, the examples in the textbook. I could add that semicolon. I don't have to. I'm going to click run and let's see. Yep. Cool. It actually puts like this old school ASCII art around this. This is like console output at its best. 1992, 1993, before everybody got color graphics cards. This was the king. And you know what? It still is the king. If you work, if you're working some back office application, if you work for SAP, or you make homegrown stuff for a company, this is your output. This is what the people, your consumers, your middle level managers, they need this kind of output. Now they might want a more pretty, rich GUI. Well, that's what we studied about 3 weeks ago in Java, in Swing. So this still works. This is fine, but I would like to see you upgrade this when I meet with you next week. Okay, so here is a real quick look at the first few answers on this worksheet. I accidentally am showing you in this video a few of the answers here. Okay, and that's it. So if you're watching this video in 1x, maybe you saw that. If you're speed of reading me, well, you probably missed that, and you did miss me kind of razzing you for using fast forward. Oh well. Okay, so next assignment between now and next time I see you, like a week from today, you're going to tinker with and experiment this exercise right here, the practice lab SQL right here, 11.15. So that worksheet that I was just talking about, that is linked on our handout page right here. That worksheet is right here if you want just the straight up PDF copy. But on the final exam, which is, multiple choice format and a little bit of open-ended short answer, you will have to write with your pencil and paper SQL statements like you just saw me do. Select all from books right here as the answer to number 1. Here is a quick look at the practice exam, which I have not unveiled yet. The link is coming soon. I tell you, see this? The link is coming soon. It might be tomorrow, it might be the next day. Anyway, on that practice final, or on the real final as well, because you know my real final is very similar to my practice final. Here's one of the sample multiple choice questions. Okay, so you will have to choose between A, B, C, and D. Which of these SQL statements would cause this output? That's exactly similar to what we just did in the interactive Zybook worksheet. Okay, so that's one of the exercises that you would have to do, and that's, oh, let's do this. Let's see if we can answer it intuitively. Let's say that you're being interviewed for a job and you said that you know SQL on your resume, but you forgot because it was like 5 years ago when you had this Professor Minich. Okay, well, you probably won't be forgetting it because you won't. Okay, select name. Okay, so we are selecting name from students where age equals 22. Well, no, we have a 19-year-old. Greater than 22? No, we have a 19-year-old. Greater than or equal to? No. Oh, which of these queries, if this was the whole table, which query would return age 22 or older? Yep, answer is C. So this is the given table, very pathetic with just two student IDs. So Alice, the 19-year-old, would not end up being listed as the output because of this clause right here. Okay, more about that next week if you need help, but hopefully you won't. Okay, back to the practice lab that I was just scrolling down to. Well, let's click run on the template that I gave you. It looks very similar to that SQL worksheet number 1. But here, I'm actually just giving you a bunch of queries with more complicated clauses like the where clause. We're doing some filters here with the Boolean and. We're doing some exact matches with an equals operator. So I want you to tinker with this. And I give you permission to copy and paste this into any AI of your choice to make up even more examples. But be careful. There are many different flavors of SQL. And who knows what the chatbots will give to you. They'll probably give you a mix unless you're really careful of how you would prompt. So like I said, Oracle, IBM, Microsoft, there's a bunch of open source ones. You could even give it, end up with an unstructured database like Hadoop or NoSQL. So be careful as you do your studying for what's the focus of my final exam will be. Um, please email me questions at the slightest bit of like controversy as you work on this week in particular. Normally, I'd want you to grit through it, but SQL is very different from the rest of our curriculum for this course. So I don't think any of you had backgrounds in SQL when I surveyed you earlier in the semester. Okay, and then finally, the last practice lab. We'll definitely go over this one next week in person more thoroughly than everything else I just ran over. But practice lab 11.17 right here, Java with SQL. This one, when we run the sample, the template, watch what happens. We get the same sort of output into this console window, but it's interactive. I can enter a new book title. So let's say I just read the book War and Peace. So I can actually enter this information. I have no idea who wrote War and Peace. I'll just say that Tolstoy wrote it. I think he's Russian. Yeah, that sounds right. And I just hit the enter key and publication year. And it was like 1920 or something, maybe. So right there, our rating, I definitely give it a 5 and a price $1. Okay, so you can see now I've added that book to this behind the scenes database interactively using this Java code. So this is all explained in Zybook section 11.5. Both of these demos are on your example page. And that's a wrap. So do the best you can with those two practice labs and that online worksheet. Email me if you have any questions between now and next Monday. Signing off. Bye. As soon as I figure out how to close my window.